We got the best podcast.
It's gonna be great.
fantastic.
Trust me.
You'll love it.
Nobody has the best podcasts like I do, and nobody knows the system better than me.
Nobody give you the best podcast
hope
for
we were
nothing
live
like
for that.
me.
Okay, good.
We were.
Because it's true. It's true. It's true. And my hands. My hands are
Is it?
fine. Look at my hands. Hands are fine.
Those are some fine hands.
They're not small. They're not small. Oh, this is so dumb. This is just something else.
This whole thing is dumb. We just dumb the internet. It's over.
That's our job?
Oh. Make it dumber for everybody.
I'm sure.
Make the internet
Dude,
dumb again.
too late.
Too late. Done.
Remember when the internet was smart? Me neither. All right. Well, on that note, I think we should totally begin. We should totally begin this episode of Super Reset Brothers for August the 19th of 2016. I'm Tanner Larson, and with me over on this side, I think, is Patrick Breeden.
Yes.
Mr. Patrick Breeden. Hi, how are
Hello.
you?
I'm fantastic. I'm
the best at
I'm
being
the best.
fantastic. Nobody can touch me.
Nobody can be better than me. When it comes to being fantastic, I'm the king. I'm the king. I
I've
can
got
do this
happiness
for,
for
you, I promise.
days. Oh, Lord. All right. Well, have fun editing this, Patrick.
Oh, goody.
So let's go ahead and introduce our topic for this week, which is games that really flew under the radar at first, but then became largely successful. Hugely, that's a word. But yeah, they, like large successes. Like we're talking about games that have just influenced this industry, and it's a flip-flop from our last week, where we talked about games that were extravagantly hyped and just fell flat.
So I don't know. I think this week is a lot
Yeah,
more
it's
fun
it's totally a lot more fun
in
and
terms of
upbeat.
what we can talk about. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like last week was just like punching babies, and this week it's
Yeah.
so much more fun.
That's all. That's what it's about. It's all about fun. Just come on.
It's all about the fun. I give you the
I got
best
the best fun
the
around.
greatest fun.
Are we just gonna do Trump like idioms all podcast?
all night
boy.
long. All night long. Anyway, you guys shouldn't like punching babies, so this is a better list for you overall. In terms of it, I'd like to tell you we spent a long, enormous amount of time thinking about this list, but in all actuality,
We
we
spent
didn't.
about like 15
So,
minutes, and we all came to an agreement on it.
yeah, so if you think that there's some different ones out there, you could always show up in the chat right now and tell us about it. Or if you want to send us some feedback and say, hey, I thought of my own list, awesome. That's always good. We appreciate the feedback. But this is our list. This is the one that we decided to create together here. And the first one that we thought of in terms of like a game that flew under the radar, didn't have a lot of like advertisement or anything like that, and blew up due to word of mouth.
Yeah,
is Minecraft.
that's one for sure. And they sold the game at the studio more specifically, and the licenses to it for billions of dollars. It is a
With a B.
cash cow, and that has to be one of the more financially successful acquisitions that either side has ever seen, like from both a developer standpoint and a publisher standpoint.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention, it's not exactly like Notch was like a super seasoned veteran in terms
Nobody
of
knew who
making
he
games.
was.
And
This thing
he'd made some stuff before, but
like this thing
nothing
just
major.
flew under the radar, and it was just a thing that was like, oh, what was this? This is just, it's kind of like Legos. This kind of looks awesome. And then a lot of people started playing it, and it's like, whoa, this is one of the more successful games of all time.
yeah, I don't even think like no, I could tell you for certainty when it comes to at least me, when Minecraft came out and word of mouth started spreading, I had no idea what a voxel game was. in terms of it. I was just like, I don't understand the term, and I didn't quite understand what the point of the game was, other than you go around, you build stuff. What do? You build more stuff. But in terms of it, the community that the game helped create and like the massive following, it's just mind blowing. In terms of what this little game that I don't know how much time Notch spent creating it, but I would say like he didn't spend like EA time or anything like that in it. And this is a game that has turned him into a billionaire.
Yes. For better or worse, that's a whole nother story for another time on how Notch perceives himself and all that. But regardless, the man has changed the industry for the most part with this game that just a handful of people worked on, like maybe less than a dozen. And it just got so huge with word of mouth. And there was hardly any advertising on it. And I don't think there was even any advertising spent on it. Like, there's no TV time. There's no
I don't
TV
think
time
so.
on it. There may have been a few internet ads, but that's about it.
Yeah, because I mean, in terms of it, you really can't do TV advertising when you're a studio that small like Mojang, and you're not based in the United States. I mean, this is a completely Swedish product, so they didn't have the opportunity to really, like do advertising or anything like that. It spread mostly due to word of mouth. It set the bar in terms of what like a voxel in a builder game is supposed to be and supposed to do. And in terms of, games that have come forward after the fact with Minecraft, you've got things like Terraria, other games I could list, I'm sure you guys are thinking of right now. This set the standard for all of that. And that's why it absolutely should be on
Not to
this
mention,
list.
it also kind of changed the way YouTube kind of works because it started a lot of careers. A lot of careers for a lot of YouTubers.
I didn't even think of that until you mentioned it, but you're right. So many Let's Players. So many Let's Players came out mainly due to that game.
I mean, that's kind of how.
And if
I mean, that's
not
kind of
that-
how Rooster Teeth kind of made their Let's Play channel.
Yeah, and even if it's not Minecraft, a lot of major successful YouTubers, and I'm even going to throw it out here, PewDiePie, another really, I mean, he is the granddaddy of it when it comes down to it, and he gained a lot of success and fame when it came to playing Terraria. And in terms of that, Terraria probably wouldn't exist if it weren't for Minecraft. So again, all of this goes back to Minecraft. It's mind-blowing.
It absolutely is. So, I don't know if there's too much more to say about it other than it definitely deserves to be on this list.
No, I think we've said enough there. So good job, Notch. Enjoy every night where you sleep on giant pallets of cash.
So, what's next? What's next on our list?
So the next one you brought up, and I absolutely agreed with it the moment you said it because it makes so much sense. Street Fighter 2.
So, let me
And
just say this right away because some people are
Go
going to
ahead.
say, "Well, Street Fighter 2, that didn't fly under the radar." Yes, it did because the first
Yeah.
game was either mildly received or it was just not well received at all, and it didn't even look like a sequel was going to be coming into play. So Capcom really stuck to it, grit their teeth on a sequel, and it just blew up in the arcades.
Well, not to mention I'm old enough to be, someone to say I can remember when all this was going on, and it did get a lot of attention in the arcades. There were a lot of people talking about it. You could go to like any 7-Eleven, and you're going to find like the Simpsons arcade cabinet or Street Fighter 2 is going to be there. So that was pretty big when it came to like people being able to try the game with friends and really seeing what the game was about. But it blew up hardcore when it came to like the home ports.
Absolutely.
Because that was the chance for everybody to sit down and really learn the game and improve and just enjoy how well crafted Street Fighter 2 was compared to the first
The
one.
first one was just
Because,
not great. It was garbage.
Garbage?
Like how the life bars worked. There was no. It was random. How the life bars worked. It was totally random. And I don't know how, like that game even got like a sequel. But thanks to Capcom,
Yeah.
there was a lot of fighting games now because of Street Fighter 2, and Street Fighter 2 is a very casual friendly game while also remaining very technically sound.
Yeah. I really knocked everything out of the park with very little advertising or anything like that. Now, let's not get misconstrued here. There was plenty of
Yeah.
advertising with the home port. That happened. But that's because it already blew up that hard in the arcades when nobody
Yeah.
was expecting it. And that just goes to show you like how hard this game blew up to the point where you had like major advertising campaigns for the home port. Hadouken was putting Mega Man X. I mean, my God, that's insane. So yeah, it definitely had that kind of impact that I don't think anybody really expected.
No, I don't think anybody really expected something like that to get as big as it did, because that's one of the reasons why quarters up is a thing. Really, like you put your money on the line with every single game, and that's really the start of money matches is with Street Fighter Two.
Yeah. Yeah, Street Fighter 2 started that. It also started the fighting game
Yep,
craze
and
in
the
the
fighting
90s
game community.
because yeah, you really didn't have like a whole lot of fighting games or anything like that at the time. So when Street Fighter 2 came along and really set the bar of what a fighting game should be, that's when that whole thing started too.
Like I would say that Street Fighter Two saved the arcade industry from collapsing on itself. I mean, it eventually did collapse, basically, because of the online and all these other things, but there was hardly any reason why anybody would want to continue with the arcade cabinet until Street Fighter 2 when it made tons of money. Tons.
Especially since like it was starting to get stale at that time, and again, I'm again old enough to remember a lot of this because before that came along, a lot of the arcade games people played were beat 'em up games. So you had like TMNT, Final Fights, different things like that. So yeah, how many beat 'em ups can you really play until you're just like, can we get something
Right,
else,
right.
please? And look what came
And
along.
one of the best games of all time, if not the catalyst for an entire genre.
Agreed. So Street Fighter 2, you definitely deserve to be on our list of
What's
awesome
next?
here. No, next is this is huge. When I was talking before about word of mouth and how everything blew up, I mean, okay, in terms of sales, Minecraft really just like, took the cake in terms of like making billions. But this game has a cult following that makes Minecraft look feeble.
Oh, yes.
Undertale.
There's a little bit of a controversy with Undertale, mostly stemming from GameFAQs, where if you don't know, GameFAQs has their annual or biannual, whatever you want to call it, like best game ever tournament, where all the best games, like people say, like, oh, this is the best game ever, gets pitted into like a huge bracket, and the entire community votes on that. Guess what won? I think it was last year.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
Undertale beat out the likes of Ocarina of Time, Super Mario Brothers, like Super Mario Galaxy, and like Uncharted and BioShock, all these other great games. And a lot of people were either really happy for the game or just were so upset over the choice. But after
Yeah.
kind of seeing it and getting their hands on it a little bit, it definitely deserves to be on this list.
Yeah, a lot of people are probably going to look at the whole thing with GameFAQs and think, well, that was people being trolls, just pushing it up there because
I don't buy
something
it.
that
I don't.
obscure was
I
on
don't
that
exactly
list.
buy that.
I don't buy that either, simply because you can go onto the forum section of GameFAQs and you can see how passionately and how vehemently these people are arguing that Undertale is better than something like Ocarina of Time. Which you would think, that's insane. Well, not to these guys. They truly believe, like, the love and care and craft in terms of storytelling and the way the game plays versus everything else out there. They truly believe that something like this is a better piece of art and a better video game than Ocarina of Time. Are they wrong? That's subjective.
That
if
is
you ask
that
me.
is subjective, and a lot of people have said, at least this is what I've heard, is that I can't play the game again. It's one of the best games of all time, and you can't play it again? Mostly because of how the game is really narrated. Like, there's two different types of routes. There's pacifist, and there's genocide.
Yeah.
Where if
Yeah.
you don't kill anybody throughout the whole game, then that's kind of like how you naturally wanted to play it. Whereas, like, there's the genocide route where you pretty much kill everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, there pretty much really isn't any room for like middle ground when it comes to it, and I don't mind the whole black and white aspect where you have to go one side or the other and just roll with it that way. I don't mind it. I think it's a lot of fun, and in terms of it, I think Undertale deserves everything it gets from fans simply because it is an extremely well crafted game in terms of like if you can get past the visuals. I'm sure that's the one thing people are going to say is like, for a game this new, it doesn't look that great, but it plays great. It has a great narrative. The music is amazing.
It's
I mean, it's so well.
It
crafted.
absolutely is, and I think it was just like one guy, who made this game.
Yeah,
It's-
Yeah.
blows my mind on how this game like got big, not just through YouTube but also like word of mouth. And I think the GameFAQs thing also helped its popularity for sure.
it definitely did. Largely because like the first time I heard of it was the guys in the chat we go to. They were talking about the GameFAQs controversy, and I didn't know what Undertale was. But then a few weeks later, I came back. They're still talking about it. They're talking about these different routes you take. You could take the genocide route or the pacifist route, and I was thinking, what am I missing? What is going on
It
here?
really is a throwback, kind of back to Earthbound almost, but it's not like a copycat of Earthbound. It's its own game.
It's not a copycat. No, it's not a copycat. I think, if anything, to people who really enjoy something like Earthbound, let's call it a love letter to
Exactly.
those
That's
fans.
that's the term I really wanted to use as a love letter, because the style that it has is nearly unmentionable, but at the same time, it is very reminiscent to what Earthbound was.
Agreed. In terms of it, anybody who hasn't had a chance to try Undertale yet, do it now. You're not going to regret it. It's only like what, $10?
Yeah,
on
it's
Steam?
somewhere around there. I think it is $10.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. Now, in terms of it, you're probably going to play it like twice, but it's going to be the greatest two times you ever
Yeah,
had.
no
man.
doubt about that. What's next? What's next on that list?
Here is a split.
Yes,
Tanner
this
and I
one,
had.
this one. So, who wants to go first on this one?
So, in terms of it, let's go ahead. I'm going to let you do yours first. Go ahead and announce what you got,
Okay.
and we'll go from there.
GoldenEye 007. Now, hold on. I know, Rareware. Rareware already had a name to it. But here's the thing. Why did this deserve to be on the list? 1, it was a licensed title. 2, it was super late. There was no reason to continue this license of GoldenEye because GoldenEye came out in, I believe, 1995, 1996, and this game came out in 1998. So it was 2 to 3 years late on its license. So that's one reason why it kind of flew under the radar, mostly because of its license of 007. There weren't a lot of good licensed games. Even back then, there weren't a lot of good licensed games. That and this was Rareware's first-person shooter. Like, they had zero experience
Yes.
with this, and they made one of the best games of all time, let alone one of the best shooters of all time.
On top of that, don't forget the multiplayer.
Yes. That was the
Because
one
in terms of that,
main
that's-
reason why people bought that game was because of that multiplayer.
And let's focus on that too, because that was something that they had planned, but it came crunch time. They didn't have, the full time to flesh it out the way they wanted. That was made on the fly with a shoestring budget. The multiplayer was, and it's still considered some of the best multiplayer you can ever play.
Yeah, no doubt about that. A lot of multiplayers, well, not a lot of multiplayers, some multiplayers are made on, like, on the fly notice. Like, I know Gears of War was, it was not a planned feature at all. It was just going to be a single player campaign, maybe even a co-op, and that was going to be it.
Yeah,
and they just threw in a multiplayer, and it turned out to be like the main reason why that franchise still exists. But going back to GoldenEye, yes, it hasn't aged well. We know this for sure. But its legacy cannot be tainted because of its aging.
And I'm going to go with the part that has aged well in
Yes.
terms of it, and it didn't have any type of major franchise or anything like that to back it up. After GoldenEye, Rare decided they wanted to continue making shooters, but they didn't have any other licenses to use, so they created their own and called it Perfect Dark.
This one I don't exactly agree with, but I'm gonna let Patrick go with his notion here.
In terms of it, Perfect Dark went under the radar simply because it didn't have the licensing. Sure, it was from Rare, and everybody knew that they really hit a home run with GoldenEye, but when they decided to create their own and put that out there, that's when people really started to scratch their heads and say, well, hold on. So you're just going to create a new world and a new game from scratch, and it doesn't have any major IP like... Yeah, thank you, phone. It doesn't have any major IP like GoldenEye. And in terms of it, I don't think it really took off right at the beginning. But over time, it became clearly the superior one of the two. Simply because it has aged well. The gameplay is better than GoldenEye. It overall is better in terms of multiplayer, the story, the single player. I could go on. It's better all around.
So can you break it down in layman's terms?
Let's break it down. So
I'm sorry, I had to bring that up.
I hate you. I hate you so much. But you did what you did there. So in terms of it, it is just overall better in terms of like the weapon choices, the multiplayer, single player, aging, everything. It is overall a better game that I don't think anybody really had any thought toward because it didn't have a major license to back it up.
Yeah, and Conker's Bad Fur Day, maybe. You can make the case for it, but I don't see it being on this list.
I think that's kind of a niche audience.
It is a little bit
honestly.
niche, but there's also like they advertised quite a bit on it. So there was some
advertising-
notoriety going for
I
it.
don't remember. I don't remember any advertising, but the reason why I would say no to that is simply because it was niche. I don't think it really blew up compared to something like Perfect Dark because there is a small group of people that really want like Conker's Bad Fur Day, whereas Perfect Dark has appealed to tons of people. Even got Perfect Dark Zero. We're not going to talk about that because that was ass. But it's even to the point where, to this day, I know there's some people talking about Conker's Bad Fur Day and they want another Conker game. Right, okay. But there's so many more people that want a new Perfect Dark on Xbox One.
Yeah, even with the not so great sequel, I know that there would be a lot of people who would just eat up Perfect Dark, like more so than Conker. I mean, I don't want to say that, but it's the truth.
I'll say it because Microsoft themselves believe it. There was I can't recall the interview, but there was a person from Microsoft that was on a gaming podcast being interviewed, and he said that he knew that there was he knew there was demand for a new Perfect Dark, but he couldn't say if or when it was going to happen. But he did say that he thought now was the perfect time because you've got the technology to create a really
No
solid
pun
shooter.
intended.
Yes. Now is the perfect time for Perfect Dark.
You know that's what they're probably going to say
Damn
when
it.
they even release a new sequel. You know,
E3 next
E3
year.
next year. Or are we going to
Yeah,
call
Phil
it? Are we
Spencer's
going to
going to
call
come
it?
out.
All right.
I'll call it. Next year, Phil Spencer's going to come out, and he's going to have a Battletoads shirt on, and he's going to troll everybody by saying, now's the perfect time for Perfect
Oh my
Dark.
god. How long is he going to keep trolling people with the Battletoads shirt?
He's going to wear that shirt till he's dead. And, like, you're never going to do Battletoads where you're just like, Phil, you're on your deathbed. Are we getting a Battletoads? And he'd be like, you gotta wait and see. Damn it, Phil!
Oh god. Okay. we gotta move on from Rareware. We gotta get out of Rareville. So Rareville. That's what I said.
What is? Oh
That's
my
where Conqueror
god!
lives.
What
Is
is
Rareville.
Rareville? I see. That's so sad and depressing. I'm gonna pretend you didn't say
Whatever.
that. Anyway, so the big one that we both agreed upon heavily when it came to this list here, and our final entry because it deserves the final slot,
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers.
So let's preface this by saying this. Back in the 70s and late 80s, or not late 80s, early 80s, the video game industry had a little bit of oversaturation. Kind of what it's kind of suffering from now, but I don't see a crash with this industry now. There's hardly any reason why it should. But back in the day,
Right.
there was hardly any basis of it to go off of. So there was oversaturation, and boom, people got tired, and they just kind of moved on with whatever the next big thing was because they thought it was a fad. Video games back in the day were a fad. They weren't a business, they were a fad until one Japanese company came along and turned everybody's heads.
Yeah, they turned the narrative upside down simply because, like, with Atari and games like that back in the day, the big thing you did when playing those is you tried
Yeah.
to get the highest score or something like that. There wasn't really the idea of beating the game. It's just you play and try to get the higher score than everybody
There
else you
were
play with.
there were a
things like
handful of
that.
games that you could beat. One of the more notable ones was Adventure.
Yeah, yeah, but that wasn't the core concept. It was more about earning points, arcade style stuff like that. Super Mario Brothers changed all that by giving you a game that you are supposed to beat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it still had points, and that's fine. But you are supposed to complete the game. You're supposed to finish the
I
story,
think
which was
I
definitely
think that's
different.
when video games started to get more attention as a medium because of Super Mario Brothers. Like most mediums
Hmm.
have a beginning and an end. Like obviously with video games high scores have to end at some point, but what story does that tell? The games with the
Yeah, just
story have a definitive ending, and that's what Super Mario
right.
Brothers really brought to the table and kind of changed how video games kind of look at themselves.
Yeah, it changed the insight on that so much, especially with, shall we say, a pessimistic audience that saw the crash of video games with Atari. ET and other games didn't, live up to the standards that people were hoping for, and it really bottomed out. So yeah, there was a pessimistic audience that said, "Oh, here comes a toy company, Nintendo, bringing their system over here, and they want you to throw like $250 at it, in the hopes that it's going to get you, the entertainment that Atari promised and didn't deliver." So yeah, they had to fight from the get-go because they had a pessimistic U.S. audience that wasn't really buying into it because they had already been burned. And that's why Super Mario Brothers deserves to be on this list and the number one slot because it overcame all of
Yes,
that.
it really did save this industry because without Super Mario Brothers and without Nintendo, I mean, rag on them what you will for now, what they're doing now. Sure, go ahead and go for it, but you can't deny the success that they had in this industry, let alone helping rebuild this industry.
Yeah, that's why, Nintendo, in terms of being dreamers, I definitely respect the company that continues to do that even to this day. They don't want to go with the status quo, even though it hurts the company, which is happening right now. But they refuse to go with the status quo. They still continue to dream as big as possible to help push the industry
Hmm.
forward. And I deeply and forever respect the company for that. I just wish they would stop the
Yeah,
internal bleeding.
that's one thing that really needs to happen with the company now. But back in the day, they were largely untouchable until they had a competitor with Sega.
Oh, dude, that the NES with Super Mario Brothers and the other lineup of games that followed, the thing printed money. You opened up the slot where the game cartridge came in and just
Yeah,
spat money
absolutely.
out. It was
It was
ridiculous.
it was awesome. Awesome.
I mean, to the point where people were paid to sit around at a desk and play video games, so kids would call a 900 number, and you would give them tips
The
to
pro
get through the game.
tips. Oh my goodness.
This is the kind of industry, the kind of job that the NES and Super Mario Brothers created. Do you understand the power of this game? I don't think you do.
I do. And a lot of people still want to be in this industry because of what Nintendo has done in some way, shape, or form. Like, they may indirectly influence them, but there's no doubt that every single developer and every single person in this industry has a thank you for Nintendo.
Absolutely. And I'm also proud that I channeled my inner Bill Murray a moment ago. I very much enjoy
Oh, my
doing
goodness.
that. Cats and dogs living
Mass
together.
hysteria! Oh,
And that's exactly what Super Mario Brothers created for the game
is mass
industry.
hysteria?
Mass
One,
hysteria.
for better or worse, it
Nintendo
did. For better
fever.
or worse.
Nintendo fever, son. That's what it created.
Oh my goodness! But what else? What else do we have to talk about? We have nothing else on this list.
No, that was the list we have. So, in terms of that, anybody also has their list of games that flew under the radio? Radio?
Flew under the
Yeah,
radio.
because that's what games do. They all just fly under the radio and get killed by the video star.
Goodness. Well, anyway, what Patrick is trying to say is, if you have any games that should be on this list, or you feel like something was left out, you can hit us up on here. On our live podcast, twitch.tv/the reset button LC. You can hit us up on Twitter at Reset Tanner and at Reset Patrick. You can contact us on resetpress.net, which, by the way, is down currently, so don't go visit the site just yet until it's back up. And that's
yeah,
all I got to say about that.
that's all we got to
So-
say. It's going to be a short and sweet one
To
this week, I
recap,
think.
we have GoldenEye 007, we have Perfect Dark, we have
Yeah.
Undertale,
Yeah.
we have
Yes.
Minecraft, we have Street Fighter
Yes.
2 on this list,
Yes!
we have Super Mario Brothers. That's all of them?
Yes!
Okay.
Yes!
Can you say anything else? Okay, good.
Yes.
Just making sure that you can say more than just yes. God damn it.
Yes!
That's not what I
Yes.
fucking meant. Okay. Well, he's gonna Daniel Bryan. He's gonna Daniel
Maybe.
Bryan his way out of here. That's Patrick Breeden. That is
Yes.
your name. Who are
Yes!
you? No, that's not your name.
I'm not a very
No,
good
you're
yes man.
So that's why you become a journalist. Is you're not a good yes man.
No, that's it's called integrity, kids.
So don't be a yes man. But this is Super Reset Brothers for August 19th, 2016. I'm Tanner Larson.
And I am
And
Patrick
we will see you
Reed.
guys next week. Take care.
Short and sweet.
Sweet and low.
I think that's what we needed this week. Sweet and low.
Let's talk about
Saccharine
about
Freeze with the
underrated
tea.
sugars. Sweet and low.
Let's talk about things I can't have, like sugar
Orange
and
juice.
sugar. Orange juice, can't have it.
What
It's not
can't
gonna happen. Regular Mountain
Regular
Dew,
Mountain Dew. You can have diet.
can't have it. I can have diet,
Can you have
so
Pepsi?
things like that. If
Oh,
it's
okay.
diet,
Fair enough.
can't have any regular stuff. But in terms of that, yeah, Mega Silver, you showed up way too late. I'm so sorry.
But he showed up better late than never.
Better late than never.
Ah!
I guess the one thing I could say in terms of, since we start talking about like top sweeteners, just
Sweeteners.
underrated sweeteners. What the fuck? I started going to the gym, guys. So here in a few months, maybe you'll see me be less
I
overweight.
need to get back to the gym. Fuck. I just realized I have a membership.
I have been going pretty consistent for the past 5 days, and I plan to continue
go?
with that.
Where do
so,
you go?
Yeah.
Oh,
Planet
okay.
Fitness.
We go to the same place.
It's cheap. Yeah, it's cheap and you don't have to deal with people being fucking
Yeah.
assholes, and pretty
I
good.
wish though that my place was 24/7. Like on some days,
Oh,
on
mine
some days
is.
they are, but like on the weekend they're just done.
Yeah, like mine. There's only on the weekends. It gets a bit crazy, but like weekdays, it's a bit more flexible, which is great for me because if I feel like going after work, I can, or if I feel like going before work, I can, which makes life so much easier for
Mega
me.
Silver, he says he was playing around with his PS2. Which game? I'm very curious to know
It's
which game. Or if he was just kind
that
of
is not
tinking
a bad
around
thing to be
modding
doing.
it or whatever it was. But I'm just kind of curious on what
Playing
PS2 game he was kind of using there.
playing PS2 is not a bad
No,
thing at
absolutely
all.
not. Well, I mean, how many people have a PS2? It's huge, huge numbers.
Oh yeah, PS2. Like I've said, I preferred like the Xbox in terms of like, you know, power for the console, and I preferred the GameCube when it came to games. But you can't argue the PS2 won that
No,
entire thing.
clearly, clearly.
It You can. I mean, I suppose you can, but then everybody has the right to tell you stupid as hell.
Guys, the Dreamcast totally won.
Oh yeah, totally, totally won. Well, what did it have? Shenmue. That's all you
It
need.
had Crazy
Done.
Taxi, but then again, so did the GameCube. It had Sonic Adventure 2, but so did the GameCube. What else? What else? It had like Space Channel 5. It had Sega Bass Fishing.
It had Seaman.
He-Man! Oh my god, I watched the AVGN video on that. That was so funny.
Oh yeah, like he didn't tear into it, which I thought was pretty fair because like it's unique. I don't even think you could call the fucking thing a game.
It's as much of a
But
game as
I
Animal
think
Crossing
like
is? Choo Choo Rock. Oh yeah, Choo Choo Rocket was on the Dreamcast. That's right. I remember. So was Marvel, baby.
well I oh yeah,
Marvel.
that's right. Oh, and it's also where the fucking Soul Calibur started. I
Right.
forgot about
See,
that.
the Dreamcast does have a. That's probably gonna what we're gonna be talking about next week. Is the Dreamcast.
So in terms of how we do owe a little more respect
By
to
the
the
way,
Dreamcast
didn't the
because
Dreamcast just have like an anniversary not too long ago? Exactly. Oh,
no,
it's coming up
it's
nine
coming
nine
up.
nine nine. That's right.
99 of
Which
99.
was the same release day as Final Fantasy 9 or 8? 8.
8,
Which
I
was a
believe.
bad
But
decision.
here's the really funny part about all that too. Back in '99, there was some lunatic on the fringe, just like the 2012 guy that was saying the world
Uh-huh.
was coming to an end. There was a dude that kept screaming, "The world's going to end on 99 of 99." He foresaw the prophecy. It's going to happen. And then the Dreamcast was announced to release the same day, and I was like, Sega, you fucking trolls. They didn't even care. Like, you would think, like, because
Well,
they
if you're
didn't
gonna
want to
call them,
upset people in the
wait, if you're gonna
U.S.,
call them trolls, you gotta call Square trolls too.
damn right. But, I mean, okay, Square released a game that day, okay? Cool, cool. No, no, no. Sega's like, we're taking the next step in our company's history on
And we're
this
taking the
day.
final step.
Fuck you.
So really, the prophecy was that Sega was gonna come to an end with one last console.
Well, yeah, I did kind of come out that way. Maybe that's what the guy meant. He was like, the world's coming to an end. Maybe he actually meant Sega's coming to an
Sega's
end.
world's coming to
Poor
an end.
Sega.
Oh wow!
Like, yeah, we'll probably have to do that next week because, like, I own a Dreamcast, so I've got that. Plus, I was around when the Dreamcast was a new thing, so I got to try that with a buddy, and it was odd. The idea of playing, like, a football game online through a modem with somebody from who the fuck knows where they were was just a really
By the
odd
way, it was
experience.
laggy as shit.
Oh, it was terrible.
And then the
It was the
Xbox rolled
worst.
run and then stomped the shit into it.
Yeah. I think we talked about this before, but if anybody's ever wondering why was everybody so hesitant to do online gaming when it came to consoles, because Dreamcast online gaming sucked ass, like
I
bad.
mean, it's all you had
That's why
really
people
too.
were so hesitant. I mean, it was just, whew. Like, you ever tried to play a football game, like any sports game, because there's going to be a lot of action and movement, obviously, and try to play that with your characters, like, doing this number? Oh, it's awful.
Uh,
The
but as far
worst.
as like local gameplay goes, it was great.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any issues with that. I can't remember that one zombie arcade game that got ported over to Dreamcast, but that was a lot of fun.
House of the Dead.
No, no, no. It was a beat 'em up.
Uh,
I cannot remember the name of it. I'm sure somebody in chat's going to be like, it's this, you idiot. And I'll be like, yeah, you're right.
let's see. There was also Power Stone.
Power Stone, yeah. Don't ever play Bad Shinsen in Power Stone.
Yeah,
He will destroy
we've
you.
known that for sure. Oh, that was
Oh,
that
my
was
God.
that was a
Was
rough night.
that-
It was like, oh hey, it's Power Stone. I wanted to try this, and then he's just like wrecking our faces. It's like, oh, let's go play something else.
And then there were also the little MDU units
How
that you had with
awkward
them and
was
everything.
that?
It was really weird. Like it was a bit more fun when you found out that you could play little mini games on them, but then like the battery
Yeah.
would just die.
But I think we should save all of our discussion for next week. We don't want to get too deep into the Dreamcast right now.
No, we don't. We're giving all this away without even like putting it into a podcast. We're just yapping because somehow how did we mention the Dreamcast? We went from PS2 to Dreamcast. How the
I have
fuck
no
did that
idea.
work?
I think I may have brought it up somehow, some way. You're probably gonna have to go back in the archives on this and find out. I have
I
my
don't
ways
know.
of bringing up a topic. I'm a social butterfly.
He's got his ways. He's got his ways, and they're all terrible.
They're all
They're
terrible.
all shameful.
Great, thanks, Patrick.
They're shameful. Shameful. Okay, we got to get out of here, guys. So, in terms of it, thanks for stopping by. We had a quick one this week. We'll have, I don't know, we'll have a podcast next week.
We'll probably have
Does
more
that
to
work?
discuss with the Dreamcast.
Yeah, I think that works.